Hello. Sylvester.
Yeah, I think you can start now. Sylvester, unmute your mic.
Hello?
Okay, now you can proceed.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry. Wow. So I think I have to give the ground rules again. So I'm welcoming everyone to today's session. Thank you for joining in. Creators Right Now is a community for artists, writers, designers, illustrators, painters, and what have you. It is a dedicated session for training experts in the industry. So thank you very much for joining. Quickly, I want to give the ground rules. Everyone should make sure that our microphones are on mute. They are muted so that there will be no interruptions. Also, there will be a Q&A session after this, so you can type your questions in the comment area or in the question area so that after our presentations, we can address the questions. Thank you very much. Let me move into it. I hope everyone can hear me. If yes, you can send a wave again. Okay, yes. So we have supporters. We have supporters we have Ghana Association of Visual Artists who are supporting this worthy cause. We have the GPA, Ghana Publishers Association, and then we have Blue Vine Limited, which is a design and branding company. A big ups, a very good, I want to say thank you to them for their support. Okay, so I want to quickly introduce our speakers so that we can know who is talking to us and enjoy them as they speak. So quickly, one speaker, Mr. Nicholas Ayite Ejay. He's the MD and production head at Blue Vine Limited. Nicholas is an astute entrepreneur. He's an astute entrepreneur with extensive experience in branding and printing technology. He is an inspirational leader and a brand enthusiast. He's a graduate of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Years of working experience in printing. I'm going to have a good feel of him. He worked with X Origin as a senior manager before joining Blue Vine Limited. That he performs at Blue Vine as a production head. Our next speaker is Mr. Benedictus Ajima. He is the MD and production head. Sorry, he is, sorry about this mix-up. He is a freelancer and he's also has his own designing director there. Sorry for this mix-up. Now he's a communications design professional with over 17 years of experience in operating graphical software, designing layouts for promotional materials, and is now a freelance graphic designer. Then myself, who is the host of this program, Sylvester Edinburgh. I'm a graphic designer, an illustrator, and I'm also a graphic design instructor. I am a lover of art and I like to share knowledge and experience with others. I'm a graduate of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST. I have over 4 years of working experience as a graphic designer and an illustrator. And I have designed for key events, including Ghana International Book Fair, Ghana Rice Festival, amongst others. And I have done about 5 books, illustrated books, which are already published in the country. I am currently a freelancer, a freelance graphic designer, and a graphic design instructor after I served at Blue Vine Limited as a creative director. So thank you very much. These are your panelists for this morning, and I hope that you are going to enjoy our session and learn something or be upgraded from what we are going to learn this morning. Thank you. All right, so quickly, these are the highlights for today's discussion. We are talking about Prepress for graphic designers. These are the highlights. We are going to know at the end of this session, we are going to know the meaning and then the stages of Prepress. What is Prepress and what are the stages involved? We are also going to know a word called Preflighting, which is what printers check before they print. And then we are going to finally do a checklist of items that you have to consider before you send your designs for print. So you can now cross your arms, get your pen or paper, and you can make some notes from here. Thank you very much. Okay, so what is Prepress? Prepress is a term that is used in printing and publishing industry to describe the processes and procedures that occur in between a design piece and a final print. So if you see the illustration here, it is showing I have a bridge in between a computer screen and some deliverables, some printed items, okay? So I want you to understand it better that Prepress is like the bridge in between the design that you have done or you have created on your computer, and then the final work that will be produced for you at the end, which you are going to take from your printer. So the series of activities that happen after you have sent your work for print, what the printers do before they print it for you is what is termed as the pre-press. So before printing. I hope we get that. Thank you. So what are the stages that are involved in pre-press? These stages that I'm going to give you is the basic stages that the pre-press process is about. But we are going to learn along the way that we are going to apply them in different forms of printing technology. So the first stage is called Preflight, and we have 4 stages. This is the bridge. That is, the bridge here is to show you the gap between your designing and then the printed work. Okay, so let's get onto the bridge and then we can cross the river. The first one is Preflighting. Preflighting, we are going to go into it, so let me skip it. So that's the first stage, pre-flighting. The second stage is called imposition. Third stage is proofing, and the last stage is called the plate making stage. Pre-flighting basically is the first stages that the printer would take your work through by checking for certain errors with your work, whether there are spelling mistakes, whether the file wasn't saved well, whether there are issues with your color, there are issues with the size of your work. You know, those basic checks that is going to do first, depending on the specifications you added to your work when you were sending it for print, okay? Then we have imposition. Imposition applies when you are doing multiple copies of items. Their works, there are some things that probably as a graphic designer we may not know, but when you send your work for print, the printer has to, if you are printing multiple copies, the printer has to arrange them in a way on the paper they are going to print on, so that they can be able to cut them well after they are printed and get the number of copies that you requested for you. So it is more like the arrangement that you are going to do for the work for it to be ready for print, okay? Then there is proofing. Proofing is basically the stage that after your work has been checked, there's you print a sample or you check through it again to see that everything is correct. So you print a sample to see that the colors are coming well, every other thing, spellings are okay, your text is on point, your sizes, everything is okay. So it's kind of the last stage that they are going to do to make sure that the work is finally ready. Plate making has to do more with when you are printing on the press. When your work is set, for instance, you have designed a flyer, you want 100,000 copies or you want 10,000 copies. It is usually printed on a press. Now the press, there's something they call the plate making, where your design will be transferred onto the material on which the printer can read your items, your images, your text, your design, so that it can be reproduced for you. But along the way, we'll learn that plate making only applies for press. And even now, there are technologies that are eliminating the plate making. But the basic understanding I want you to have is that the plate making point is where your design is transferred to a format that the printer can read and reproduce for you. Thank you. All right, so pre-flighting. Pre-flighting is performed to catch any issues with the file setup that might prevent it from being print ready. So like I said earlier, if you send your file, it is first checked if there are issues, but those issues are what are the main things we are going to talk about. That is why I'm still saying issues, because we'll mention them in the following slides. Okay, so you can see some angry faces, some sad faces here, and some text. Cost, angry, disappointed, sad. What are some of the things that can make a graphic designer assume this demeanor? What are some of the things that can make a graphic designer, cry or get angry or have make unnecessary costs. You will get to know them along the way. That is why this is important, because if the work was not set well, if certain checklists, certain parameters are not considered before you send your work for print, it might end up being printed, and when you see your work, you will get some of these facial reactions. Either you are going to cry, you will be sad, you'll be angry, there will be cost, because you did not consider certain things before sending your printed file. That is why Prepress is important. The activities that you are going to perform before you send your work for print. So as we proceed, now I'm going to give you the list of these items that you are supposed to check before you send your designs for print. Let me pass this across. Because Prepress has to do with the activities that the printer will do before printing your file. The reason this is important to us is that we have to understand what they do and then know what we can also do to our design, so that when it gets to the printer will not have issues. So we are going to have checklist, which is a list of items that as the graphic designer, you have to check, or I have to check on my computer with my design, even before I start the design, whilst I am doing the design, and after I have done the design, I'm saving the file for print. I have to check those things so that when it goes to the printer, they can also be able to produce what I am expecting from them. So quickly, this is a list of the items that are recommended that as a graphic designer, you pay attention to before your work is ready for print. With the understanding that we have gotten that there are a series of activities that the printer has to do. He has to check your color, he has to check your text, he has to check the size of your work and many things. Therefore, we have to do our homework first. So this tells us that most of the times, the works you send for print and then it doesn't come out as you expected. It is not always that it is the fault of the printer. Most of the times it is the fault of the graphic designers, which actually is what prompted the need for this webinar, because I experienced a lot of that and realized that most of the mistakes come from us, the designers, and we must pay attention to these things. So quickly, the checklist has to do one, we have grouped them into 6 points. The document setup, which has to do with the size of your artwork, the margins, and the bleeds. We are going to explain them. The images and image resolution, color, which has to do with your colors and the color space in which you work, and the use of black. Also, the font and the text that you use. How do you deal with them? Then the fifth one has to do with the print file that you are going to send for print. What format is best? What format should you use to avoid errors or mistakes after the print? Then we have a miscellaneous of general important issues or pressing issues that designers must take note of. So let's quickly plunge into the checklist. Before I continue, I want to let you know that at a point, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Mr. Ben, who will be our second speaker, to continue. And then he will also hand over to Mr. Nicholas Eyite to ride us to the end of this journey. So you should be expecting a changeover very soon. So I'm going to start with digital and offset print. And I'm going to do this together with Mr. Benedictus. So I'll hand over along the way to him. We have grouped them into 3. We have digital prints, which has to do, the first printer you are seeing on the left, which has to do with digital prints that we all know, most of us I'm sure know about. Then the second aspect has to do with offset printing, which has to do with usually when you are printing a large quantity of items, let's say 100,000 flyers, 10,000 posters and all that. we print them on the offset printer. So we are going to look at how to deal with your files when you are printing digital and offset. Then Mr. Nicholas will take us to how to work with your files when you are dealing with large format print. If you are going to print your items on a large format, you are printing a banner, you are printing a billboard, you are printing a backdrop, you are printing labels, stickers, all those ones are done on a different kind of printer, which is called the large format and or the plotter. So he will take us there. So we are using the checklist to go through the digital and offset. So your document setup, which is the first item on our checklist, anytime you are doing your work, you are doing your design, you must make sure we are talking about the size of your artwork and the orientation of your artwork should be correct. Most of the times, you are going to print a work that is, if you can see the illustrations here, the pictures here, you are going to print a work that is, you want to print it for me. What we realize, the mistake sometimes we do is that we still send the square format work to the printer that, oh, print a flyer for me. I want it to be A5. And if you do that, you are going to give the printer problems. Sometimes you don't know what happens behind the scene. The printer, if they are design inclined, they have to redesign it or rearrange the items on an A5, which is a waste of time, and they may even distort your design for you. So just be sure that anytime you are sending your work for print, it is in the original size that you want it to be. That is one. And then two, it must be in the right orientation, whether it is portrait or it is landscape or it is a custom size. Anyhow you want it, make sure it is the same as you want it that you are sending to the printer. So the second thing under the document setup you have to pay attention to is your margins and your bleeds. What are the margins? Let me skip to the next slide and then I'll come back here because there's a pictorial view. Okay, so from what you are seeing on your screen, you can see some arrows pointing to the right side, show it, and then the text on the right side here, and an artwork over there. There's a red outline around the artwork, there's a black outline, and there is some green rulers on it. Okay, I'm going to explain them quickly. So the red one you are seeing here is what we call the bleed line. Now the bleed line is the area where the background of your work, the color or the graphics should cover if they are to be printed to the edge of the leaflet. So for instance, if you see the artwork on your screen, I have a yellow background which I want it to hit the edge of the work when it is printed. Because of that, I have to add another space to my work, which is going to, then I will extend the color behind my work so that when it is printed and they cut it to size, we will have the color bleeding there. Okay, so we call that bleed. Bleed is the extra space you are going to add to your work. So if your work is A4, after doing your work in A4, you are going to add an extra space, which I'm going to recommend in the next slide, of about 3 mm to about 5 mm, 5 millimeters around your work, which I am showing with the red line. The actual work size is the one with the black line around. But your work must exceed it so that when it is printed, they will cut it for you to get the size that you want. The danger is that if you don't do that and you put your work exactly at the edge, you should know that your work will be printed on a white paper. So if they print it exactly A4 and they are going to trim it for you, there's a tendency that the paper, the design may shift. When they are cutting it. So there will be a
can you go back? Can you go back a bit?
Which can make you have some white
Sylvester.
spaces around your design, which sometimes we don't understand. You didn't put white around it. You wanted the yellow to hit the edge, so you wanted your work to bleed, but go back. Yes, can you hear me, please?
Yeah, can you go back a
me?
bit because you went off. You went off. Can you go back a bit?
Well, to which
Getting to the end of the bleed submission on the bleed.
Okay. So did you hear the beginning on the submission?
Yeah, sure. Only the bleed aspect. Can you go back that place again because you went off?
Okay. Sorry about that. The internet, I'm sure. Okay, so the bleed again. I'm saying that the bleed is the area where the background color of your design. So if you are doing a design and you put a background color on it, for instance, what we have here, there is a background color of yellow at a portion of the design, and there is a picture that is also at the edge of the design, right? Now, the background color or the picture, it should cover if they are to be printed to the edge of the leaflet. So if I want this design to the printed to the edge of my paper, which we call bleed in graphic design, then I must add what we call bleed, which is the extra space after I have set my work exactly A4, which is showing here with the black line, which is exactly A5. I have to add an extra space of about 3 millimeters or 5 millimeters. I'll show the values in the next slide. An extra space here, I just want you to understand it pictorially. The space in between the black line and the red line is what we call the bleed. It is the extra space you put on your work so that when after printing, the printer is cutting the work, they can get your color to be at the edge of the work for you. So that is what is the bleed. Then we have the trim line. The trim line is the black, which is the actual size of your work. So that is where the work will be cut. But we have to add extra, which we call the bleed. Okay, now we have margins and safe area. I believe you can see some green lines on the design over here. The green lines are rulers that I have put there to give me some breathing space on the edge of the design. So the bleed is actually, the margin is the space in between the green line and the black line, which is the space you leave on your artwork, which allows for a breathing space around your design. It also prevents it from getting to the edge of the design so that when they are cutting it, they will not cut off your text. Okay, so the margin is the space you leave around your artwork, which is part of your design. You leave that space around your elements so that they don't get to the edge of your design. The main reason is that when it is being cut, they will not cut off your text. The second reason is that when your work they are reading your work, there should be space around it so that the eye can rest when you are reading. So that is the reason why you need margins around your design. These are very important things that if you don't take note of and you send your work for print and the space around it is so tiny, you may end up seeing your final work and then the text is cut off. It's because you didn't leave enough margin, enough space around your items on the page. Thank you. So let me now give you these quickly. So margins must be set correctly. After we understand what margin is, we understand what bleed is. Margins must be set correctly. Bleed must be considered when you are working on a colored background and also when your images are flashing to the edge of the page. You must also check the settings that they are correct for any folds and any perforations that you want to do. So if you are doing a brochure and to be folded, you just have to make sure that you have left enough space for the folding so that when you do your work and it is folded finally, they will not fold on a text. Okay, so there's another example of bleed, trim line, and safe area. There's a business card. The red line is actually the size of your work, the trim area, exactly the size. That's 3.5 by 2 inches. Then you add an extra space, which is called the bleed. Then we have also what we call the safe area, space within your work that will prevent the text from being cut. So let's take this home. Bleed should be about 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters, depending on the work. So usually for business cards, you need about 2 millimeters extra space that you add to your work. And then if it is a book or whatever, you need about 5 millimeters. Okay, so 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters bleed. Then the margin, the space around your elements in the design should be at least 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter, which is safe for cutting. It can be bigger than that depending on your artwork. I hope we are getting it. If you are getting it, you can give me a wave, or if I'm going too fast also, you let me know. Okay, so let's go to the next item on the checklist. So the first item we have dealt with is the document. Now let's go to your images that you have used in your design. One, images. So let me show you another image here, then we go back. So what you are seeing on your screen here, what is on the left is an image of 300 dpi. Image resolutions are measured in dots per inch. Okay, so if you have a picture that you are going to use for your design, the computer recognizes or measures it in dots per inch. That is the pixels. Okay, so this image on the left is 300 dpi and at 100% zoom. Then the one on the right is 72 dpi at 150% zoom. What I want you to take away from here is that anytime you are using images in your work, if you are expecting a sharp image, a nice image, then make sure that you also use a sharp and a nice image. Some of the times you send a design, you do your design, you don't get a good image. The image is blur. It's like what is on the right. It's because the resolution is low. And if you use it for your design, don't expect to get something like what you are seeing on the left. The printer doesn't do that magic. So the magic comes from the designer. Make sure that you are getting images of good quality, which the resolution is high enough. There must be at least 300 dpi so that when you use it for your print, it will come out sharp as you want it to be. So next time, let's not go and fight our printers. If you have your work printed and the image is blurred, most of the time, it could be from the printer, but most of the time, we don't choose the right images at the beginning of the work. All right. So a quick giveaway. One, images must be 300 dpi resolution. Two, you must convert your images to Cmyk, which Mr. Ben will elaborate on in the next one. So I wouldn't talk much here. Make sure that your images are converted from RGB to Cmyk. He will explain. Then make sure that your images should be large enough to avoid pixelation. So what I explained in the image over there, the image should be of good quality enough. Number four, it is advisable that you use vector versions if you are dealing with a logo, icons, and infographics. So if you are doing a business card, you are doing a flyer or anything, usually the logo that you use, the icons you use, the infographics you use for your design, make sure that they are vectors. Vectors are the kind of files that usually you can produce with Adobe Illustrator and CorelDRAW and all. Those images, they are not pictures. They are actually drawn shapes, which doesn't usually pixelate. Okay, so you use vectors. I think this is a general idea for you to know what to check. So from here, you can also do further research. What is a vector? Then you understand it better. I'm hoping to do probably a tutorial on these ones also. Number five, images and graphics. You must make sure that your images and graphics are packaged well with your file when you are sending. So if you are sending a file for print, most of the time you should embed the picture into the design, because sometimes when you send it for print, the image can vanish from the design when they're about to print it. The link is broken. So you make sure that you embed your images into your design to avoid those things. Sorry, I went back rather. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Ben. He's going to take over from color space. So I have talked about your document, which dealt with bleed, margin, artwork size. I've also talked about the use of images. They must be of good resolution. Thank you very much. I'm handing over to Mr. Ben, and please have a nice time.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sylvester. Well, we'll go straight to colors. Sylvester, can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Just wave your hands if you can hear me, because. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Attendees cannot speak.
We can hear you. You can speak.
No, okay, all right, okay. So we'll talk about colors now. When it comes to colors, we have two types of color. How do you call it? Two forms of colors, where we have subtractive colors and additive colors. In designing, we have, for instance, when you take a screen, we have what we call light-based colors. And then when we take for printing purposes, that is using digital or offset printing, we have what we call pigment-based colors. With the light-based colors, one thing designers would have to do is that before you start any document, you make sure that if it's for digital or press work, you make sure that your colors have been changed to Cmyk.
Sorry.
And not in Rgb. And you also make, but then let me explain just a bit of what Rgb is and then what Cmyk is. Rgb is a light-based, what we call light spectrum. And then they are called subtractive because of what they add. When you add, for instance, when you add red and then blue in light, you get magenta. When you add red and then green, you get yellow. And then when you add green and then blue, you get cyan. When all these three, red, green, and blue, put together, you get white. Now coming to offset or digital printing, which is the main color base. We have Cmyk. Cmyk means C for cyan, M for magenta, Y for yellow, and then K for black. And these three colors, when they are put together, they give you the middle color called black. So let's move to the next slide. The next slide, please. Okay, the next slide actually talks Rgb and Cmyk. So when you decide to print in Rgb, the top colors is what you see. And then when you print in Cmyk, the down colors is what you see. If you watch very carefully, you see that there are some distinct, some look a bit similar, some look, for instance, the top one looks very bright and I'll say shiny, and then the down one looks a bit dark. The next slide, please. With colors and color space. One, color swatches, making space must be in Cmyk. meaning that anytime you are going to work and you start your artwork and you start your layout, you should make sure that your color mode is in Cmyk. And 2, if Pantone or spot colors are being used, the color numbers must be correct. Then 3, ensure all black colors are in, ensure all black, especially text, are in 100% black and not registration black or rich black as we call it. Next slide. The illustration you see on the next slides just gives you an example of what goes into what we call rich black and what we call black. Rich black actually has some percentages of all the various colors in it, but the black color is just black, 100% black. When you print a rich black color, what you get is when you print in rich black, the colors don't register properly. And when they don't register properly, you see some form of shadows on the, for instance, the illustration, sorry, the image on the, with the text images, you are seeing on the left, on the top side, you are seeing what you see as, you are seeing other colors in it like yellow, magenta, cyan, and black. And that is the rich black or the registration black. So the colors don't register properly. But then when you go down, you see that because it was 100% black, the colors came out properly. Let's go to the next slide. Make sure you are in, with every artwork you are doing as a designer, you make sure that your color mode is always in Cmyk. For instance, if you are working in Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, you should always make sure that your color mode is in Cmyk. Secondly, in Photoshop, if it's Photoshop, you go to image, you go to mode, then you change it to Cmyk. Thirdly, you go in Adobe InDesign, you navigate to the color. If the panel is not visible, you hit the F6. Key to bring it up.
Please, I hope we are in sync. The internet is not stable, so I hope we are in sync. What I'm showing now is the font or text, so that we can move along.
Yes, can he check his network, Ben? It seems his network is not, his internet is not that active.
And also, if he can go back a bit.
Go back. Okay, he has just sent the, oh, is it back? Okay. The network. His network.
So as we wait for him, let's just be pondering over the questions that we'll be asking, so that we can put them together.
The network is very bad. Talking about what?
I think kindly put off your video if your network is very bad, so that you can handle only your voice. Kindly put off your video. Put off your video.
Hello.
Okay. He's still not connecting.
Hello.
So, I think we can.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I am off. Now. Yeah. Sorry about the mix-up, but
Okay. Sure.
So can you go back a step so that we'll be able to get what we missed?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. So we didn't get you. Also, we want you to go. We are taking you back so that you can. Is here okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
No, Sylvester, you've gone too much back.
Yeah.
I think a slide back is fine.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
It looks like he's up. He's up.
Tough. So I don't know whether one of you can.
Let me stand in for him. Right when he comes, he continues. Just for the sake of time. Is it agreed?
Kindly proceed.
Okay, sure. So I'll still take us back. Okay, so this is an example to show what happens if you use rate black or process black and 100% black. Process black actually using the 4 colors that was shown in the Cmyk. Your cyan, magenta, your yellow, and your black. It means that the printer will have to print 4 times to be able to get the text. 4 inks are settling there. So most of the time there is the tendency of a mix so that it will not fall at the same place, misregistration, that's what we call it. So that you realize sometimes when you print text, and mostly newspapers and all that, you take it closely, you realize that the text is shaking or is a little blur. It's because the printer goes over it 4 times just to give you one black color. That is why we advise that you use 100% black. So the down one, you see that it's showing very clearly as black, which means that when you are setting your color, especially for text, make sure that all the values for the C is 0, yellow is 0, magenta is 0, and then the K, which stands for black, is 100. Then in that case, the printer only prints once. So there's no way there will be any shaking. Okay. So I think he moves through. If you are using Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, there's a way where you can go and check your color mode and all that. So we can go through that. Illustrator, you go to Documents, Color Mode, then you change to Cmyk. If you are doing in Photoshop, you go to Image, you go to Mode, then there is option Cmyk and Rgb. So you choose Cmyk. InDesign also has the same another format that you follow to be able to get your color space correctly. I want to make this statement that it is not always that you have to work in Cmyk. The purpose for this is for print. If you are doing it for print, then you have to make sure that you are working with Cmyk. But if you are doing it for social media and all that, the best is Rgb, which is for screen viewing. Okay. So the next item on the checklist is your font or your text. Okay. When you are dealing with font and text, one thing we want you to know is that make sure your work has been proofread. It's very key. We have this, there's something called printer's devil, which are some of the mistakes that the printer will never see. I think we should also have a term called designer's devil, because most of the time as a designer, especially when the client sends you the work and they wrote it on paper and you have to be the one to type it. Most of the times we make typing mistakes. And so you've done a very beautiful design, and then there is a spelling mistake, and it's going to be printed about 10,000 copies or 100,000 copies. You can see the harm that it will cause. So it will take you back to the emojis I showed earlier. You may cry or you have cost. Okay, so your font must be packaged while with a file or converted to caps. If you are designing for print, especially if it's a book, if it's a flyer, if it's a poster, you must make sure that your file that you are sending, you should convert the text to caps. If you are dealing with CorelDRAW, you convert to caps. If you are dealing with Illustrator, you convert it to outline. If you are dealing with Photoshop, you convert it to smart object or to a shape. This is because usually when you send files for print, some of the software, some of the printers, they have to use your native file that you send. Let's say they'll tell you that send the work in Illustrator, or send the work as an Illustrator file, as a Photoshop file, or as InDesign file. You know, when you send it, or as a CorelDRAW file, when you send it that way and your text hasn't been converted and the printer doesn't have the fonts, it will change. So let's take note of that. Number 3, check the font sizes, check your alignment and all that for correct reading. So these are things that you just want to do, that when you use text in your design, make sure that everything about the text is on point. Check your character thickness. Thin fonts usually don't print well when you are working on a background color. So make sure that if you are using a thin font, you use it well. Let the contrast between the color of the text and the background be stronger, so that we can see the difference. Another tip is that if you are, okay, these are how you can convert your text to outline or to smart objects or to caps in the software. So in Illustrator, you select your text, you right-click it, and then you choose Create Outline. Those who are conversant with Illustrator, I'm sure will get it. If you are also working with Photoshop, you convert your text to smart objects, or you convert it to shape. So you right-click on the text layer within your layers panel, and then you see that option, convert to smart objects. There's another option, convert to shape. So you convert it so that it doesn't give you any issues. But I think I will advise that before you do those things, you should have a copy of the original thing, because there may be changes later. So if you are going to convert your text, make sure that you have the original file there, okay? Then you make a copy of it and convert it and send that one for print, so that in case the client comes back for changes, you will not find yourself wanting. So this is an example. This is in Illustrator. This is a text that has been converted. So now it's a text, but now it has been converted into a shape. It's looking like a shape, which means that you cannot edit it anymore. So that is why I'm saying you should save a copy. Thank you. Now let's go to file format, which is the next item on our checklist. Okay, so we have talked about fonts. Now we have done our font, we have checked our images, we have checked the document for our bleed, for the size of the work, for the margins and the color. We are about to send the file for print. So the print file format, how should you save it? What format should it be?
Sorry, I think Pinto is back on the line.
Okay. So, all right. So I think I will, Mr. Pinto, can you hear
Yes,
me?
I'm back. Sorry, the internet has been bad. Okay, I was listening to you when you were presenting. So yes, okay. So you're at file format.
Take it up from file format and then go back.
Okay, so print file format. The print file format, we have 4 methods where you can send your files to the printers, whether it be in large format or of PA. We have PDF, and then we have the native file, which is the PSD, InDesign, Illustrator, CorelDRAW, etc., etc. Print file formats. 1, submit a PDF or high resolution JPEG saved in Cmyk. 2, for PDF files, do not forget to export the proper bleed and trim settings. And then 3, when you are sending a native file, like InDesign or CorelDRAW or Illustrator, remember to package all fonts and images before sending them. Then we have miscellaneous. With miscellaneous are when you have particular colors you want to use, like example, you want to do a gold varnish, you want to have a 3D or a silver color. That's when you use this is where the miscellaneous coming. So this one you have to contact your printer in such cases and get the right procedure. So they might show you how your file, if for instance you are doing a business card where you have a 3D format in it, then what you do is that they will show you how you should save your file. But ideally, when you are saving files to do digital printing, large formats, and then offset, to be on the safe, save it in PDF. And PDF all your images embedded. And then 2, properly set up your spread images. Because if you are going to have a saddle stitch page, for instance, some page 1 and page 2, someone does making the image overlap, what you have to do is that you make sure that you set it properly so that in case of perfect binding or anything, you don't have some of the images going off, because there are times when images will just shift slightly up or slightly down. So it means that you have to set it properly so that when the printer is going to where he won't have problems.
Your network is gone back again. It's gone bad again. Can you reposition yourself or something? Let's see. Okay. Okay. I think
it's advisable to pull a print sample most of the time. Designers find problems. They take works to the printers and they don't add piece of these works. So in the process where they design,
I think it's gone off again. All right. For the sake of time, if you can all hear me, this is the last point here actually. So let me just take it home. The last point here is that it's advisable that you pull a sample print before the actual run. Okay, so if you are going to print multiple copies of a book, of a flyer, it's the best practice that as a designer, first go and print a first copy and take a look, let them finish it for you, let them cut it, let them trim it to the exact way you want it, so that you can check all the things we are talking about, your font, your color, the bleed, and all the important things to be sure that everything is on point. if there's any corrections to be done, you do it. If it is okay, you approve it for the multiple run to be done for you. It's very important. So thank you very much for this session, this side. I'll hand over to, on behalf of Mr. Benedictus, I'm handing over to Mr. Nicholas, who will take us through the large format or the plotter when dealing with that. Thank you very much. Mr. Nick, please take it. You are muted, please.
Thank you so much. And good afternoon, good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
It looks like our earlier presenters have done a good job. They've dived much into a lot of the areas. So it makes the section I'll be presenting quite straightforward. As we are all aware, large format is the method of printing where a plotter is used. When I say plotter, I mean a machine that prints in row. So you could have from a 3-feet printer to about 10.3, in some cases 10.2 feet printer. So that is able to print something for 3 meters around. So if you have a billboard of about 3 meters by whatever size, you'll be able to print it. So that is what large format is about. We have, before that, Sylvester, can you go back? Before that, we have various types of, we have the print and cut, and then we have those that are able to print without cutting. So the print and cut are mainly for labels and some vehicle contour cuttings. So that's about it. So let's move on here. So there are few areas that we would want to talk about. We want to talk about the artwork size of the work we do, the resolution of the work, the margins or bleeds that may be needed. I would want us to use a parameter of a billboard. So we are going to use a 3 meter by 6 meter billboard to make our work very easier to do. So if you have a billboard of 3 meter by 6 meter, which in some cases, or most of us, our machines would not be able to handle a 3 meter by 6. So it is best for you to scale the size down. And in scaling down, for instance, you have a 3 meter by 6 meter, that is about 300 by 600 centimeters. So you have to decide which proportion or multiplication you'll be doing. So you scale down by 10, you scale down by 20, you scale down by 5. So if you are scaling down by 10, which in actual sense you have about 300 by 600 centimeters, scaling down by 10 means you are going to multiply by 10. So you can do 30 cm by 60 cm. If you are working in inches, it's the same way. If you decide to work in meters, you can still do scaling down and it's possible. So whichever unit of measurement you do, you can still do your scale down. So you scale down the 10 by the 3 meter by 6 meter, and then you are good to go. Your resolution should always stay between 95 to 150 if you scale down, because the file will be blown out again into your actual size. So we should all bear in mind that when you use 300 dpi, as is being said by the digital printers, you are going to have your file too heavy to transport, which when I mean transport, to send across or carry to whoever will be printing for you. So it is best to work within this parameter of DPI. I'm going to run through quicker. So if you have any question, please note it so that it will make us able to come back to address whenever necessary. Okay. If your work so as I said, you scale down and then use a DPI as much as possible whenever you need to. So the reality of it is that if you are doing a work which will be scaled down, it is better for you to use your actual DPIs from point 1. And if you are using your actual size, so for instance, you are doing a billboard of, let's say a banner of 8 feet by 20. 8 feet by 20 is huge, but not too huge. Maybe your machine is capable of handling such a size. So you work within a lower resolution. But if you are scaling down rather, you would have to do a lower resolution so that you'll be able to, if you are scaling down, you have to do a higher resolution so that you'll be able to scale up to get the actual as you want. And it would not worry your file to pixelate. Also with margins, because billboards are going to be stretched, it's always important that you pay attention to where your tests would come up to. If we are working with 3 meter by 6 meter, it is more likely that the board is going to be hanged by the roadside. In most cases, billboards are drive past or walk past purposes. So people are driving and then they are going to see it at just a glance. So you have to consider such that your tests do not run into any hidden place. When we stretch, we are likely to lose about 5 inches because the material, which is the flexi material that is used for printing of billboards, has the ability to stretch to about 6 inches, 8 inches in some cases, to make the billboard look nice and straight. So it is advisable that between 8 and 12 inches, you stay away from putting any text at all in these spaces. Some of the billboards also have hidden, some of the billboard has frames, we call it frames, which are able to cover the edges and the hooks around. Some of us, I'm sure we are familiar with this. So if you have a frame or a facial around it, it is not advisable to stay anywhere with 6 inches. You try as much as possible to stay with 12, if possible, go to even 14 to eliminate any possible hiding of your text. Especially when you don't own the billboard, you try not to do anything that would cause future issue to your losing of text. Number 3 on this is bleed. If we come to large formats, bleed is not necessary. I say bleed is not necessary because in all cases, we do hand trim, or if it is a print and cut, it's a machine trim or machine cut, which is able to identify the exact place that you want your work to cut. Unlike the paper printing where because of jogging and situation of some little shifting and holding up, it is able to, you are not able to get all your prints exactly at where it's supposed to be. So cutting would mean that some of the pages may go a little off than the others. So that's why they need bleed. But with large formats, bleed is not necessary at all. If you put bleed, and as we all know, the calculation of large format is per your square feet or square meter, the areas that it covers. So if you are putting bleed, it means you are going to increase your cost for printing. So it's not advisable to put bleed. And in an example that we are using, which is the billboard, the work itself is going to be stretched and hide beneath the frame. So if you put bleed, you are not going to use them at all. Okay. All your artwork, as is been said earlier, for print purposes must be in Cmyk. There is no need to explain further to it. If you save in Rgb, you are likely to have a change in your output. The point is, about 98% of the machines we have here are programmed or calibrated or made with Cmyk profiling. And so when you design your work with Rgb and it's printed with Cmyk, you are definitely going to have a different output. If you are printing and you have a control of the machine, which is if you own the machine or where you work is where you are going to print at, then you can try your hands with Rgb. But if you are going to send your work out for prints with other printers, which in most cases be the case, then I would advise that you stay out of that situation of saving your files in Rgb. Colors are very important parts with large formats. When you are doing billboard, for instance, because we are in a very hot environment or temperature, and the sun is always scorchy, I always advise that we use colors that are not light. So you don't use colors like yellow, light blue, light green, or lemon green for billboards. Not that you don't use them at all, but they shouldn't be your prominent colors. You should try to use colors that stand out, like deep red, black. All of these tend to stand out better. So in your design, you should consider the choice of colors for your striking messages. So if you want to say the president of Ghana is Nana Akufo-Addo as your striking message, you shouldn't use yellow for that striking message, even though the corporate colors for that client may be yellow. You try to stay, that is why we have auxiliary colors. We have colors that can be used in replacement of we call it primary and then secondary colors. So if the primary colors of the company are even yellow, you can use the secondary colors to the purpose of striking the viewers of your billboards. So please try and stay away from light colors for the key information that you want to put on your billboard. If it's a campaign, you would want people to reach out to you. So for instance, your phone, the contact number you put on it, so phone numbers, that is the call to action numbers, shouldn't be in a light color because in few time it will fade. And people would say that, oh, I am using a Roland printer, or I'm using an Epson solid printer, and so my inks are good and it's not going to fade. Yes, at Blue Vine, we don't have issues with fading in shorter period. But because we believe in the fact that works, because of the nature of our sun, fades over a period, it is advisable that you stay with choosing colors that are going to stand the test of time. Number 6 is the fonts that the fonts. So as much as possible, you try to convert all your fonts if you are not printing in-house. The point is, when you scale down your file, the file is going to be reopened by the printer and scaled up to whatever size you've indicated. So if you are using you are doing a 300 cm by 600 cm, and then you scale down to 60 cm by 30 cm, or 30 by 60, whichever way. If you don't convert your fonts or your key elements into curves, and you save the file, when it's open on the other side, in most cases, they don't know which font was used, or if the printer overlook on the alerts that font has changed, you are going to have a file printed with fonts different. So it is always important for you to take note of the fonts you present. If you are saving in PDF, then try and convert your fonts to curves before you save. If you are doing JPEG, which is what I'll talk about in the next slides to come, you can save your files without converting them, because once you are doing JPEG, it flattens it. The next thing is font thickness. So if you are doing a work for billboard purposes. It is always important to measure your fonts. So you are using a parameter of 3 meters by 6, which will be hung at airport, a very busy place. And your message is straightforward. Nana Akufo-Addo is the president of Ghana. You just want this message to be catchy to everyone. Now, how do you know that this size of font you have used would be able to be seen from 100-meter radius or 100-meter distance or 200-meter distance, which is possible, because if you are doing 3 meters by 6, you should be able to see your striking message from a 200-meter distance. Now, of course, that is to mean those with an excellent view, but 100-meter radius should be seen by all. So your pegging should be that your billboard should be seen and the striking message should be seen from a 100-meter radius. Now, what you have to do is to take a tape measure and measure the font's height or thickness of your font. So you measure it, and then with your tape measure, you could let your client, a colleague of yours, hold it. If you are alone, you could hold it and stretch your arms to it and see that if my striking message is this, maybe on your screen, it is telling you that it is 6 cm. Don't forget that you've already scaled down. So if you scale down and it is 6 cm, you multiply by the scale down ratio that you have used. So that is why you have to bear in mind and also note the scale down ratio at all instances. So if you scale down by 10 and then your height is 6 cm, then you multiply by 10, which means that you have 60 cm as your height of the font. So you imagine that if you are looking at 60 cm, would it be visible enough? If yes, then you are good to go. If it is not, then you have to work on it. So that every point in time, whatever key information that you want to represent on your billboard is seen. If you are doing a backdrop, or if you are doing a smaller banner or a pull-up, it is not a problem. If you are doing a label, it is also not a problem because it is going to be handheld. So the size or thickness of the font is not so much a problem. However, in the first slide, there was a point on thin fonts. Let me talk a little on that. If you are doing a label and then you present a font which is too thin and your background is very solid, say deep blue-black background, and then you have a thin font which is very small, there's a high tendency that that font will close in and you will not be able to see your text readable. So it's always advisable that if you are using a very solid background, you increase the thickness of your fonts when they are very small. But if you have a white background, which in the cases of Blue Vine, it is excellent, not necessarily white, but if your background is not too solid, you'll be able to present a small font as possible, and then it's going to be printed. But take note, not every machine or large format printer is able to print smaller fonts. Most of the huge machines cannot print smaller fonts. So if you want labels printed and printed with sharp and excellent quality, it's advisable you use a smaller printer, which is a 3 feet and a 4 feet, maximum 5 feet printer. You will be able to achieve the size of fonts as much as possible, and in some cases, the best as you want it. Print files, as we said, it's advisable to be in JPEG if you are doing large formats. Don't try to do PDF if you don't control the printer. Always try to keep your file in JPEG to eliminate any situation of your files having fonts changed and all of that. Also, there are other situations, or in some instances, where you have done your artwork with some gradients and some molds of blends and all of that in your design. If you save your artwork in PDF, when it is printed, in about 98% chance that your gradients, your modes, and all those transparencies you placed in your artwork will vanish. So it is better to flatten your transparencies, you flatten your modes. So you save them in JPEG, convert them, and save them in PDF as well, so that you are very sure that your artwork is going to be saved with no issue to it. This is a very key part that I would want. You see, when we send our works out, there are a few instances where we don't have the chance to print out samples because we are printing from some quick printer. I don't want to mention any name, who do not have the time to say that.
Thank you, Nick. I want to put this in so that because we are almost ending with our presentation, if you have any questions, please raise your hand in the chat area so that right after the presentation, we'll call you and unmute you to ask your questions. Thank you.
And you can also write your questions and we will read it out and answer for you. Sure. So I was saying that if you do not control the printer, it is always advisable that you keep your files such that it will be able to be handled by anyone at all without they calling you. Because most of the printers we deal with in town do not have the free time to review the file and say that this is the artwork that accompany the file, and so this is how I should print it. So if it changes, they will not see anything wrong with it and say that, let's call Sylvester to tell him that his file has changed, and so he should resend a different file. They will just print out for you, and if it's large file, for instance, 10 feet by 50 feet, you are going to be in trouble. If you are printing labels of 5,000 pieces, you are already in a big trouble. That is what Sylvester earlier said, that is where you'll be in a sad mood or be crying. So always pay attention to the details of your file. Secondly, please try as much as possible to know where you are printing your file or where you do your print. When you have an experience with a printer and you are not able to resolve that experience, I would advise that you get a printer that would understand the way you want your works printed. That will give you assurance of whatever work you do, whatever work you present for print. You know that printer A is always able to review my work, tell me that my font has changed, my gradient has changed, my modes have changed, the size I indicated in the mail as print is not what I'm going to get. So you should always take note of where you print. If you just look at price as your determinant of sending your job for print, you're always going to be in trouble, or most cases be in trouble. So please don't always look at price. Yes, price is a very good point to look at, or a good factor to look at, but consider the output of your work. So that is what I would say, that if you have a banner or a billboard, which you spend days to do, and a printer is going to spend just 2 hours to mess it up for you, and in some cases, you would not be able to tell until it's been installed at, say, Boligatanga, and you are in Accra. The client calls you that your artwork has changed. What I sent to you or what I approved is not what I'm seeing at Boligatanga. How do you resolve such a situation? It's going to cost you more than you can imagine. So it's always advisable that you try and go to where you get the best output as possible. And lastly, your file saving. These printers deal with numerous files in a day. Try and save your file with a name that would identify your file with the details. So if it is with Bluevine, we try and save the files that would be, even though we print everything in-house, we save our files with the size of the file. So the printer will be able to easily tell that if it is 4 feet by 8 feet banner, easily the printer will be able to tell that it's 4 feet. If it changes, the file name would expose it, and then you'll be able to call the get a correction to it. If it is an SAV, 4 feet by 8 feet SAV. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Thank you so much. That has been very, very detailed, and thank you for the last point as well. Kindly, this is the end of the presentation. I would like to know your questions, and then we can answer them. I hope you had a nice time. I hope it was informative enough and it met your expectations. Now the questions can come, please.
Hello.
So, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please, I wanted to know, you how I could do, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I wanted to know how to set my bleeding margins.
How to set your bleed. Is that it?
Yeah. Due to the network, I couldn't get you right here.
Okay. So let me take you back quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so I hope you can see what I'm showing now.
Yes.
Okay. Can you see that there is I think let me show the other one, then I'll come to this.
Okay.
Okay. You see there is a red line around the design on the right side.
Yes.
And there's a black line, a black border.
Yeah.
The black is the original size of the work, which is A5.
Okay.
So the flyer I'm doing, I want it to be A5. Okay, after I've done my A5, you add an extra space. For instance, this is a flyer, so it is advisable something about 5 millimeters.
Okay.
You add it to your size, so it becomes 5 millimeters at the top, 5 millimeters at the down, 5 millimeters on the left and right. So it means that your size now becomes a little bigger than the A5.
Sure.
Then you extend the background, which you can see the yellow. I've extended it to go beyond the black. It has gone into the red, so that it's because when the work is printed and it is being cut, it is going to be printed on a white paper. So if you do it exactly the size and they cut it and it shifts a little bit, you are going to have white around where you wanted it, the yellow to end. And that is what we call the bleed. It means that the work is going, the work is hitting the edge of your design.
Yeah.
So all this is what I would say behind the scenes. It's like, you know how you want the finished thing to be. So you are doing some corrections behind the scenes so that when your work is a little bigger than A5, but you only have to prompt. So let me put this across. You always have to, when you put bleed on your work and you are sending it for print, you have to add it to the specifications. You tell the printer that I have put 3 millimeters bleed all around the work. So he knows that after printing, you will cut 3 millimeters off, just so that your design, your picture and your background color will be able to hit the edge as you're expecting it.
And to add to that, some of the print houses have softwares that is able to determine bleed. So just as Sylvester said, it is important that you indicate the bleed you placed on your artwork so that they will be able to input into the system to determine your bleed, and your trim margins and all of that will be on it. and get it better.
Thank you.
Okay. In a way, I think I could save it in a bracket attached to the main name that I'll use for the file, if it's possible. So that as soon as they open the file, they will definitely know what I'm in as well.
Yes, yes, yes. And always add a word of mouth. I've experienced this even just this week. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
After adding the details to the name of the file, okay, if you have the chance, talk to them and go over it, because even just this week I experienced some. I had stated exactly what I wanted, but they overlooked some. You know,
they overlooked.
So to save you the time and everything, just let them know that, okay, I put a bleed of this and all that. After sending that, call them to go over it, that
to confirm.
I have done this and that, and that. Please make sure you attend to the instructions I gave. You get it, so that you don't.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take another one. Take another one.
So
Hi. Okay. Please, can I talk?
Yes, please.
All right. I would like to add one contribution before I ask my question. Ryan asked how he's going to do his bleeding, and I realized you were saying he has to create the bleeding space around his work.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yes,
This
Mary,
is like a bit of contribution to Ryan's question before I ask my question. So am I allowed?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, so in case you are using AI or Photoshop or InDesign, before you launch when you launch the software and you are setting up your paper size you want to use to work, it gives you the options to also set your bleeding space around it. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mary. Thank you so much.
Yes. So that's the first step he needs to take. If not, if he enters the workspace, that means he's going to do it manually. Yeah. Okay, so aside that, my question is if it's about font or text type. So does it matter if you use open type font or true type font in case you are working on design?
Okay. Should I take it first, or if anyone wants to? Nick or Ben? Should I? Okay, so let me.
All right, take it. Yeah.
Okay, then you can add up. With that, okay, it usually matters when sometimes when you are exporting the file for print, there's a prompt. For instance, if you are using InDesign, they can prompt you that the font is not usually, if let's say you didn't buy the font and all that. So most of them, it only becomes necessary if you are sending native file for print. For instance, if you are going to print and then the printer says, send me the AI file or send me the InDesign file, the native file, that is where the font you use matters. So in that case, the solution would be to package it. Package your file. I think when you go to the file, you can see there's an option called package. You package the file so that the font and the images and everything will be collected into folders. Then you send the whole thing so that they can, because somebody can have the true type font version of, let's say, Roboto font. And then they also have the open type version of it. So if you use the true type and then it goes and the person has open type, it will not resolve well. So you have to just add the package part so that they can install your font and then get it. Sometimes also, if you are going to do embroidery, I think that is not part of this, but then you ask about the font. If you are using embroidery, they also have specific, some of them, they can tell you that make sure your font is, let's say, true type. So if it's not like that, what you have to do is I have to convert it. That's why the conversion, if you are dealing with just one page work and it's going for this kind of large format, is going for embroidery and those kind of things, just convert the font, because the moment you convert it, the software will not recognize whether it's an open
You create
type.
an outline.
Yes, you that make it an outline when you are dealing with Illustrator. You make it a shape or effect, how do you call that? You make it a shape, right, in Photoshop, or you make it outline in CreatorsRightNow. Yeah, or a smart object, yes, so that it doesn't recognize the kind of entities. Yeah.
All right then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mary. Thank you.
Yeah, but a quick one to that. Fonts are really delicate issues, especially with digital printing. In some cases, when you save your file in PDF and you think it should not have a problem, for instance, you've done a flyer or a business card, and you use fonts that are not bought, there is a tendency that when it is mounted, you know, with digital printing, for instance, a flyer, it will be mounted on, say, bigger paper, so A3 size, so 4 on it. You are not doing the mounting, the printer is doing the mounting for you. At the point of mounting, if the printer doesn't have a software, he's going to use either CorelDRAW, InDesign, or Illustrator to do the mounting. When that stage, when the printer is doing that mounting and your font is not good, you are likely to get, even though he's placing the font, he's placing the artwork in the whatever software he's using, your font may change. So you see that it will be indicating error. I don't know if you've experienced that.
I've experienced that before. That's why I asked this question.
So that is also why you need to know where you're printing, because the printer must have software. We at Bluevine, we have a software that would not open your file at all. So it's able to mount the files without opening it. So that the font will not be touched. The file itself is not open. So you will not have any situation that the font will change, or a special feature you put, let's say a symbol you put in a font. For instance, if you are doing a key font, it would not change. But if it's going to be opened or placed, that one you are in trouble. So please take note of it. That is why when you are giving a sample, you should look out for these things. So when you are printing 500 flyers and you are giving the first sample, please don't just look glancingly to it. Look at the details to each page and see if you catch a glimpse of something like that.
All right.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay.
Any more questions, please? Okay, I see Obed Blankson. Obed Blankson raised his hand during the presentation. Obed, do you have a question for us, please? Okay, so are there any more questions? Nick, you are muted. So if you are, it looks like you are saying something.
Someone with name Too Sweet has his hand.
Yes, please.
He spoke.
Yes, exactly. Hello. Hello.
You have another question?
Hello, sir. Yeah, my last question.
Okay.
Okay, you made mention of when designing something for social media, and for it should be CMYK for social media, and for print should be 100% black, right?
Oh, hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Yes, right. Hello.
Ben, are you taking it?
I wanted to answer him. Ryan, for social media purposes, because it's going to be on screen, phones, on people look at it on monitors and all that. Ideally, it should always be in RGB.
RGB. Okay.
Then for print purposes, yes. But Ryan, let me ask you, what software do you use?
I use InDesign, AI.
Okay, so it looks, because the way you asked about I don't know whether you still can get it, how to go about with doing the bleed in terms of coral especially.
I think with those things we have been exposed to it, you can check on those ones.
Okay.
Have been exposed to it. So Mr. Ben is going off again. Okay, check on those ones.
Yeah, but a quick one to what Ben was saying.
No, if I can go about it in coral.
Okay.
With the InDesign
quick one to what Ben was saying. Ben, are you done?
Yes, I looks like he uses more coral than InDesign, I'm sure.
I think kindly go ahead and answer him. Okay.
Okay, Ryan, so, to be able to do, sorry, Ryan, to be able to do that in Coral, you should always go to layout. And when you go to layout allows you to have that option where you can you can have your paper layout, your size and all that. And then when you look at the layout option, it goes down, it shows you where they have the bleed. And then you indicate the bleed, whether it's 3 mm or 5 mm. And then you and then quickly your setup. So you see your actual page in Coral, and then you see some dotted lines around the page you have in Coral. And those dotted lines you are seeing are actually the bleed
the bleed
pages. So that's where you can the bleed. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. Thank you very much. Okay, to end the answer for his question, you asked about Rgb and Cmyk, right? So I think it's been done. One thing I just want to so there are situations where the client first asked you to design for social media. So you did it in Rgb. Then later comes that I want to print, which means that there needs to be a conversion from Rgb to Cmyk. And in Photoshop, we are going to send you the video of this webinar after. I think we showed the procedure, how you can go and convert from Rgb to Cmyk or from Cmyk to Rgb, right? So you go back to revisit that and you see the conversion. So all you have to do is to convert it so that you can see how the colors will register, okay? And then if you want to touch it again, you touch it. Are you okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I see a question in the comment area, so I want to read it. From Acrofi Ernest. It says, is bleed supposed to be added? Is bleed supposed to be added during document setup or after designing that? I think it has been answered now. You are supposed to, ideally, you are supposed to put bleed on the work before you start. Whilst you are setting the document, like Mary contributed, you look for bleed, set your bleed, so that by the time the document opens for you, there's that red border already provided by the software. Then it will guide you. Thank you. Any more questions?
Henry.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Henry.
Okay. I think when you were explaining the color space, I think when you mentioned the Pantone color, I didn't get that part very well. With the swatches, when you are using the InDesign.
Okay.
I'm bring for the Pantone color.
For Pantone colors, Let me see. I think. Okay, the Pantone colors. Let me, for the sake of time, let me take it quickly. They are usually, I'll say, special colors that do not really fall within the normal colors within the swatches. For instance, if you are designing, you are using InDesign or Illustrator, you see that the swatches, there are some preset colors over there.
Yes.
So those ones are easy to get, okay? But usually when you are dealing with companies, they have specific colors. We are designers, you know, when you are designing a logo for somebody, you want to use pink, but you will not really pick the pink in the color swatch. You want your pink to be unique. So you end up adjusting the color. So the end result of that thing is going to give you a special color, which when you are going to print, you have to note the values of that color. These things only usually matters when you are going to print in offset printing. For digital printing, you know, the machine will just give you what you want. But for offset, because it is usually manual, you are going to put in the colors, you are going to blend 4 colors manually to get them. You have to give the exact code. That is what we meant. So you check the color code for that special color. You write it down, let them have it so that they can mix the colors by that code and give you the exact color.
You must give those codes to the printer.
To the printer. You can call them also spot colors.
Okay. I like it.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with it. Thank you very much.
I would say that even when you have codes attached to the file when you are sending it, it is always advisable that if your client is sensitive to the color he or she is expecting, then get a sample. Even if it's a sticker, just try and get a piece of sample to it. Else, you are likely to get your file printed differently slightly different. And you know, colors work a bit different from time to time. If you print from a particular printer, and when I say a printer, not the institution, but a particular printer, say Konica Minolta today, the same Konica Minolta in a month's time may differ a little. So you would have to best get a sample printed and be sure, or get a client to approve it. If you are sure that your client is sensitive to the color they are expecting, then please do it that way.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you so much. Okay, any more questions, please? I see a question here. Is Cmyk advisable for digital printing? Okay, yes, that's what we are preaching all this while. That maybe I'm thinking probably the digital the person is saying is an online, to be used online, maybe, if I get you right. But digital here, we are saying is that Cmyk is best, is actually what you should do when it will be printed. So whether it is offset printing or digital printing, Cmyk is our language as graphic designers, all right? Then if it will be used online, I hope that wasn't what you meant anyway, but if it will be used on social media and all those things, that one, thank you.
Okay, Edward.
Yes. Yeah, Edward. We are not hearing you. Your network seems to be bad.
I think he's disconnected. Mary, can you?
Eddie, you can send your question in the chat area.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mary.
Hello.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah, and there's this last question I would like to ask. In InDesign, at what point do you add a slug to your work?
Okay. So with slugs, okay, slugs are usually for documents that are very, very, I'll say detailed. For instance, you are doing dictionary, you are doing some 1,000-page book, you know, documents that are very bulky and all that. Slags usually it's to add comments and all that to specific portions of your work. Okay, so it's you for the sprints that we do. If it is not to that extreme, slags are not. You may not really need it because you can just speak to those ones if you are getting it for print.
All right.
But then I think we can do an exhaustive one. I haven't dealt so much with slags, so I can't really give you much details on that.
All right.
Yeah. If anyone on the panel can.
I will have to go and read more into it then.
Yeah.
Okay, Adrian.
Hello.
Yeah, Ed, you can talk.
Yeah, I think I'm clear now. I think Cmyk was the fact that you can print on a particular machine today, and in a month time the print out of. I want to know what exactly accounts for it. But just a week ago, I printed a document. It came out differently, color changed a bit, and the following day I reprinted, and the color was different from the same print house, and I was wondering why that was the case. And if the colors can change in a matter of a day, then I'm also thinking that if maybe I'm working for a particular client and I want to print for her to confirm the color, and I print it today and she's like, okay, this color is great. Then I go and print out multiple copies tomorrow and the color has changed. What happens? What really accounts for those differences in prints?
Okay. Thank you, Ben.
Okay, let me take it. With,
Nick, you would answer.
Let me take it.
Okay, all right.
With color changing with printers over a period is something that is usual. That is why there is something called calibration. So when the periodic maintenance time, the service people come to service the machine, they do calibration. And when the calibration is done, it resets the printer to its original state. Now, original state in some cases is not as it was bought new. It is as your printers in your drums, your tuner levels in some machines, they are charging colonels and all of that. If these ones are in good condition, then it will move it back to the original state. So if you are printed today being Tuesday, and then tomorrow the service people come to work on it. Thursday when you come, you are likely to have a different printing. But what happens for a day change is not supposed to be a case. So the best of it is what you said, that print out the sample, get your client to approve. If you are about to print the main work, the sample must be accompanying your work so that the printer will be able to make sure the output is exact as the sample you got. So even if it's in a year's time, the printer would be able to match it because he's working with the sample you are bringing. Do you get it? So the cost of it cannot be controlled much. That is what I would say, because the parameters that causes it are quite a lot. So the cost can't be controlled much. But you as a designer, or even when you own the machine, should as much as possible try to match your print with your sample that is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Your network is bad.
Please write your question if you are unable to
write your comment.
But then the follow-up or recommendation.
Edward, can you write your comment? Your network is bad.
Hello, can you hear me?
No, it's still not clear. If you can just write your comment, it will be helpful. I'll read it.
Okay, sure. My network
Thank you very much.
is a bit better. I'll try and
I have another question here. I think we should be wrapping up. So if after this question,
all right, thank
you. We'll be wrapping up. I see one question in the chat area. Let me just. The network is getting bad everywhere, so I think. Hello.
Sylvester, can you read Henry's question and
okay,
let's get it answered.
Okay, so Henry says, is Cmyk still advisable for designs that will be used as ebooks and not for print, which of course will be viewed on screens? Is it advisable to use Cmyk for, let's say, an ebook?
No.
I think
no, because you are very sure the book will not be printed. So you set your design to RGB and strict as that, because it's going to be viewed and viewed only. As simple as that.
Okay, let me add to this. I think, some of these software, usually when you are opening it, for instance, if you are using InDesign, there are presets. If you are going to print it, there are presets. You just go to print before you start the work, and you are setting your page size and all that. There are options when you choose print. The machine or the software will automatically put you in Cmyk space. So if you choose digital, it will put you in the RGB space. Okay, and it is so flexible that if you are coming to print the RGB work also, if you are going to print and the print files, there are two types. If I'm speaking to InDesign, if you're about to save a PDF, we have interactive and we have print. So even no matter the workspace you work in, if you're about to save it and you choose, if let's say you are doing a book for print, so it's in Cmyk, and you want to save a preview for your client to see. When you are about to save the PDF, there are two options. The one is interactive. When you choose interactive, it will convert the colors to RGB for screen viewing automatically. And if you save it if you choose PDF into bracket print, it will keep the Cmyk version for you. So I'm sure for ebooks, before you start the work, you can choose digital. Then it will put you in that space. And if you want to print it also, it has that flexibility when you are saving it for print. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, there are a few questions there. Sylvester.
Okay, so what? Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. It says that how does color profile affect the color during production? Someone is taking us deeper. Okay. Nick, will you speak to that?
Yes. Just as we've been talking about when we're presenting on the color profiles or the type of color to use. If we are doing digital, obviously it does affect. If you don't use,
please, so that we can wrap up.
If you do Cmyk, you are going to get a different output. If you are doing RGB, you are going to get a different output. So as simple as we put it, know what output you are expecting. So if you are expecting for to print on an RGB printer, which in some cases there are few in town, you should make sure your setting is to RGB. If you are printing to offset and digital in most cases, then it's Cmyk. That will let you get your file with the output that you expect. So profiles are very important and they always affect your output.
Thank you, Nick. I think there are a few more questions.
Okay, I think someone was talking about whether we should, like in the case of samples, so that when the print samples are not matching with the actual and they are intending to print more. Edward asked that question. You see, that is why I said that you must know where you print from. Try and establish a good relationship with your printers so that with time, you'll be able to even get samples for free without paying. So you would get your printers, your samples at no cost, and then it will be matched for you as well. But if you are going to print sample and pay, that is where you would not want to print sample and ask that, oh, please go ahead and get a print for me. So try and build good relationship with where you print so that your works are always printed with samples, or most times printed with samples.
Yeah, thank you. What's the next thing? Someone was asking, which is the best? Can you hear me? Which is the best? Sorry, which is the best for printing between JPEG, PNG, and PDF? I think, okay, so just to be straightforward, the best for printing is PDF, but we have tried to make a distinction between all the printing, at least the basic printing technologies that are available, the digital, the offset, and the large format. So just be sure of which technology is going to print it, and then use the appropriate one. PDF is best for digital and offset. JPEG is advisable for large format. PNG is not for print. PNG is for screens. So if you do a design and it's going to be used online, it's best to save it PNG, yeah, or JPEG, but PNG is not for print. Thank you.
Okay, to add to that, if you are in large format, if you are doing a print and cut, which is for labels or whatever purpose it would be, and you are using CorelDRAW, it is best to save it in EPS. That would be able to identify the contour, or let's say where you would want the machine to cut for you. In CorelDRAW, in Illustrator, it's identified a special feature from Roland, but in CorelDRAW, you would have to put the contour there and save in EPS, and when it comes to the printer or gets to the printer would be able to determine that easily for you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I think Edward's question has been answered, right? I think printers should reduce sample prints. Okay, you have spoken to that. All right, and KB's questions have been answered also. Okay, so I think we spent a lot of time, and we may have to end it here, right? If you all agree. Okay, I want to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Ernest, who has been our moderator. You can see a fourth face, which I didn't introduce at the beginning. He has been the moderator from the beginning till now. Thank you very much. Ernest is also a staff at GPA, Ghana Publishers Association, and has been very helpful with this. Thank you very much. So I want to say
Adam, before you end, our president, the president of Ghana Publishers Association, is also with us on the platform. Wow. So we are privileged to have him.
Thank
Mr. Asare Kunedu Yamua.
Thank you for joining us, sir. We very much appreciate your presence.
I'm good.
We'd like to hear your voice.
It's been a nice program, Adam.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Very knowledgeable and insightful.
Thank you very much.
This is not going to be the last time.
No, please. We hope to do it every month, last week of the month like this. So with the help of God, we will come again.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to say a big thank you to our panelists, Nicholas, Benedictus, and myself. Thank you very much for sharing with us your experiences and your knowledge. God bless you so much. Our next session will be next month, God willing, within the same last week of the month. And we are hoping to do something about creating visual interest in your design. You don't want to miss this as a graphic designer or as an aspiring graphic designer. I'm sure not all of us here are graphic designers, but you still want to have a good understanding of graphic design, how to achieve interest in your design and to communicate well. God bless you for joining us. Thank you very much. I want to put this across. I'll be sharing the recorded video. So if you didn't register with your email address, you can still send it so that we send it to you. Lastly, we have a YouTube page, Creators Right Now. I'll be putting this video there, so make sure you go and look for Creators Right Now. If you don't see it today, definitely by God's grace, tomorrow. So search for Creators Right Now and subscribe, share it, and let's learn together. Thank you very much. Anything from Nick or anybody? Did I leave anything out? Any announcement that?
Okay, just a brief one. Thank you all for participating in this wonderful learning session. And as Sylvester said, try to hook up to it. Whatever you are doing in your space, learning is very important. So let's all try to learn in various ways, whatever we do to enhance on our ability to get the best for this industry. Printing is very unique, and as much as possible, we should all take advantage of the diversity in the industry or the various divisions in the industry and make sure we benefit from it. Whether you are trained graphic designer or printing or whatever aspect of the industry you fall, try and advance yourself in learning. So when you see programs like this, please participate and follow the presenters in their various ways too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lastly, I would like to have your comments, your reaction to what we've done. So I would like you to put the comments on the social media pages on which they were promoted. Okay, so you can respond to it when you participated, your comments and your reaction. Thank you very much. Have a
all right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Adam, Nicholas, and Ben.
Yeah, thank you so much too. Yeah.
All right. Bye bye. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.